Marcus didn't rob a store. He didn't hurt anyone. He didn't sell drugs or carry a weapon. His crime? He rolled through a stop sign, then got mouthy with the cop. It turned into a disorderly conduct charge, a misdemeanor, a fine, maybe community service. But Marcus didn't go home that night. He went to jail and stayed there for 5 days. Why? Because his bail was set at $500, and he didn't have it. No credit card, no savings, no one to call. So he sat in a cold cell with 12 strangers, ate processed cheese sandwiches on dry white bread, and missed 5 shifts at work. He lost his job. His landlord threatened eviction. His mom had a panic attack over a non-violent offense and an amount of money he simply didn't have. At PowerLine Stories, we've followed too many stories like Marcus's. Different names, different cities, but always the same equation. Poverty plus arrest is incarceration without conviction. This isn't law and order, it's a tax on the poor. And in America, it's perfectly legal. Marcus worked night shifts at a packaging warehouse in Birmingham, Alabama. $13.75 an hour. No benefits. His apartment, 1 bedroom, shared with his cousin. His car, a 2004 Honda Accord that rattled when it turned left. His dream. Getting into HVAC school once he saved enough. He wasn't a criminal. He was broke. And like millions of Americans, he lived on a financial tightrope. 1 parking ticket from disaster, 1 medical bill from bankruptcy, 1 police stop from a jail cell. The night he got arrested, Marcus was driving home after a double shift. He missed a stop sign. A minor traffic violation. The cop pulled him over. Marcus was exhausted, frustrated, and didn't hide it. Words were exchanged. The officer claimed Marcus was aggressive. He was cuffed and booked for disorderly conduct. The magistrate set his bail, $500. But for Marcus, that might as well have been $5,000. His bank account had $31.27. He hadn't been able to fix his radiator, let alone post bail. No public defender was assigned yet. No one explained his options. He was told, "Sit tight, you'll see the judge next week." He sat in county jail for 5 days. No toothbrush, 1 blanket, fluorescent lights that never shut off. Guards who treated him like a felon. Men detoxing, fighting, yelling through bars. Marcus wasn't convicted. He wasn't even tried. But he was locked up because he couldn't afford freedom. By the time he got out, his boss had replaced him. His cousin couldn't cover the rent alone. His utility bills stacked up. His HVAC savings fund? Gone. And no one apologized. No restitution. No recognition that the system had broken him over a few $100s. At PowerLine Stories, we believe Marcus's experience isn't an exception. It's part of a pattern, where poverty is punished harder than crime. And the deeper we looked into the cash bail system, the more we realized Marcus is just one of millions. In theory, cash bail is simple. Get arrested, pay a set amount, go home while you await trial. Fail to appear, you forfeit the money and get rearrested. Show up, you get it back. Sounds fair. But here's the catch. Bail isn't based on your ability to pay. It's based on what the judge thinks you might do. Will you flee? Are you a danger to the community? The judge decides sometimes in under 3 minutes, and when bail is set at $500, $1,000, or $10,000, those with money walk free. Those without, they wait in jail. It's not about guilt or innocence. It's about wealth. 2 people, same charge. One can pay, goes home to family, job, and freedom. The other can't, loses everything before trial even starts. In 2024, over 450,000 Americans sat in jail pre-trial on charges they hadn't been convicted of, simply because they couldn't afford bail. And most of these weren't violent felons. They were arrested for petty theft, traffic violations, disorderly conduct, drug possession, non-violent. Low level, yet their lives got turned upside down. Meanwhile, Wealthy defendants charged with assault, fraud, even manslaughter. They post bond, they go home, they hire lawyers, they prep for court in peace. Justice for sale, freedom for rent, and let's talk about bail bondsmen. The billion-dollar industry built on exploiting this system. They front your bail for a 10% non-refundable fee. So even if you're found not guilty, you don't get your money back. Bail bondsmen profit, jails stay full, the poor stay trapped. At PowerLine Stories, we believe this isn't justice. It's a two-tiered system where money decides your fate before a jury ever hears your name. In a system that claims you're innocent until proven guilty. Cash bail quietly turns poverty into punishment. Marcus's story isn't rare. In fact, it's alarmingly common. Because when you break down who actually gets locked up for not affording bail, one pattern is crystal clear. It's always the people with the least. Let's start with the obvious. Low-income Americans. They make up the vast majority of those jailed pre-trial. Why? Because they don't have $300 for bond, a stable address to satisfy release conditions, access to a private attorney to argue for a release on recognizance. They're already working 2 jobs, surviving on food stamps, living paycheck to paycheck. Now, they're in jail for a minor offense, and everything falls apart. Lose your job, lose your home, lose custody, lose it all, not because you were guilty, but because you were broke. Then comes racial disparity. Black Americans are more likely to be arrested, more likely to be assigned higher bail, less likely to be released without paying, even when matched for the same charge, criminal history, and age. In New York City, judges were twice as likely to set bail for black defendants than white ones on similar charges. And in Louisiana, black defendants were detained pre-trial 50% longer on average than white defendants. This isn't incidental. This is structural bias, reinforced every day by cash bail. And what about the mentally ill? Many are arrested for behaviors related to their conditions. Shouting in public, trespassing, refusing to leave a hospital. Instead of treatment, they get charges bail they can't afford, a cell that worsens their condition. Thousands with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder sit in jail cells, confused, unmedicated, and isolated, not because they're dangerous, but because no one bailed them out. One more group, those without legal representation. If you can't afford a private lawyer, you often wait days, sometimes weeks, for a public defender to be assigned. During that time, you remain locked up. You lose leverage. You might even plead guilty, just to go home faster. That's not justice. That's coercion by confinement. At PowerLine Stories, we've followed hundreds of cases like these, different counties, different judges, but always the same result. The system punishes people for being poor, black, sick, or legally alone. And the worst part? It's not a bug. It's how the system was designed to function. The injustice of cash bail isn't a secret. For years, activists, public defenders, and criminal justice reformers have sounded the alarm. You shouldn't be jailed because you're poor. Freedom shouldn't have a price tag. Pre-trial detention is punishment without conviction. Some listened. New Jersey, 2017. Radical reform. They virtually eliminated cash bail for most non-violent offenses. Instead of paying to get out, defendants are evaluated by a risk assessment tool, measuring flight risk, prior record, community ties. What happened? Jail population dropped over 20%. No spike in crime. Taxpayers saved millions. Success on paper. But not everyone was thrilled. Illinois, 2023, became the first state to abolish cash bail statewide. The move was hailed as historic, but almost immediately, police unions protested, conservative media warned of chaos. Judges quietly pushed back in courtrooms. Opposition wasn't about safety, it was about control. For decades, bail was a tool to pressure guilty pleas to keep courts moving to funnel money through bail bondsmen. Now that tool was gone, and the resistance turned ugly. California, 2020. Voters rejected a proposal to end cash bail, not because they loved the system, but because they didn't trust algorithms replacing judges. Even reform carries risk. Across the country, the fight continues. Cities like New York tried reform, then rolled it back under political pressure. Houston, federal courts forced bail reform in misdemeanor cases. Washington, D.C., never used cash bail and still maintains safety. Meanwhile, bail bond companies spend millions lobbying to keep things as they are. Why? Because they profit from pain. Every jailed mother, every broke teenager, every wrongfully accused worker means more revenue. At PowerLine Stories, we've watched this resistance with growing frustration. Reform is working. People are safer. The system is fairer. But those who benefit from incarceration won't give up their power easily. Because in America, even injustice has lobbyists. Land of the free. That's what the motto says. It's printed on posters, sung in anthems, carved into courtrooms. But what does free really mean in a country where your liberty has a price tag? Let's strip this down. Two people are arrested for the same misdemeanor. One has $1,000 in the bank. The other has $3 in a bus pass. One goes home to prepare for trial. The other waits in jail for weeks. They're equally innocent, equally accused, but one is free because he can afford to be. The other? He's punished not for what he did, but for what he lacks. Cash bail isn't just flawed. It's a reflection of everything wrong with how we define justice in America. We say innocent until proven guilty, but we act like poor until proven disposable. We say justice is blind, but she sees your bank balance before she hears your case. And that has consequences, not just for the accused, but for all of us. Jailing people pre-trial increases the chance they'll plead guilty, even when innocent. It costs taxpayers billions to house people who haven't been convicted. It breaks families, tanks jobs, derails futures, all while letting wealthier defendants walk free. In this system, justice is not about truth. It's about who can pay to escape it. At PowerLine Stories, we believe freedom shouldn't be a luxury. It shouldn't depend on savings accounts or access to bail bondsmen. If liberty is a right, it must be extended equally, or it's not liberty at all. And if the justice system only works for the rich, then maybe it's not justice. Maybe it's a business model. Marcus never got a trial. The charges were dropped. No jury, no defense, no conviction. But by the time that happened, his life was already in pieces. Jailed for a misdemeanor, fired for missing work, evicted for missing rent. All because he couldn't afford $500. He didn't need punishment. He needed time to explain. A lawyer who cared. A judge who asked the right questions. Instead, he got a system built on speed and indifference. A system that equates poverty with risk and freedom with cash. Across America, thousands like Marcus are sitting in jail right now. Not because they're dangerous, but because they're broke. This isn't law and order. It's a poverty trap in a police uniform. We're told to trust the system, to believe that the courts will sort it out. But when the first step of justice is blocked by a dollar amount, that's not a justice system. That's a pricing structure. At PowerLine Stories, we don't believe freedom should depend on your wallet. We believe stories like Marcus's are not isolated. They're systemic, and they deserve to be told. Loudly. Clearly, unapologetically, because silence protects no one. But truth can shift the tide. What can you do? Share this video, talk about cash bail at your dinner table. Support reform efforts in your state. Challenge the assumption that wealth equals worth. Marcus didn't fail the system. The system failed Marcus. Let's fix it before more freedom gets priced out of reach.